We are going to start with 3 minutes of silent meditation. Om, 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 Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gurupyo Namaha, Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha, Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha, Om Dum Durgaye Namaha, Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnudevanandaya, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Taravavai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Bolo Sadguru Sivananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Swami Vishnudevananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namah Shivaya. I welcome you all to this satsanga, to this evening of questions and answers. I welcome those that are here physically, and I welcome those that are watching to the different avenues of social media and so on. I welcome you all. As you all know, the ashram has been on a lockdown and closed, quarantined physically since mid-March. But we have kept here a full yogic life of study of scriptures, yogic scriptures, study of the teachings of Swami Shivananda and Swami Vishnudevananda, of practice of the 5 points that Swami Vishnudevananda taught us, practice of the 4 yogas, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, practice of the integral yoga taught by Swami Shivananda, and teaching. Since December, we have been teaching and broadcasting our teaching all over the world. So, study, practice, and teaching are going on, although we are closed physically due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevertheless, the energy in the ashram is high and the spiritual life is rich, and we are doing our level best to share everything with others. We are having a wonderful group of Swamis, Brahmacharis, staff, Karma Yogis, that together are contributing to the rich spiritual life of the ashram. At the same time, there are many, many devotees which are participating in the life of the ashram through the medium of social media, the internet, and so on. Many people around the world are supporting the ashram in many different ways. And we are thankful about the contribution of everyone. In fact, the whole organization is in a similar situation like us, and at the same time, the organization and the acharyas of the organization are supporting the ashram in the name of Swami Vishnudevananda and Swami Shivananda. The main support that we get is from the great master Swami Shivananda and from our Guru Swami Vishnudevananda. Both of them are not physically with us, but the main support is coming from them. So there are so many people and other beings, like the cats and the dog in the ashram, that are serving. The nature here is very powerful. All the elements of nature are helping and serving. The small lizards, the frogs, the birds, and I'm not going to forget the priest of the ashram, Krishna Nambudri. You may ask yourself why I brought his name at the end. It is said that we leave the most important one at the end. So I would like to thank everyone. And this is going to be a question and answer satsanga. Swami Brahmananda collected questions. He's going to ask them. Questions from the people that are present in the ashram, but also questions that came to him from all over, and I'll do my level best to answer. So again, I would like to thank all, and we are going to start now.
Swamiji, when working closely with other people, how does one learn to be kinder?
To ask again and raise a little bit the volume.
Okay. Swamiji, when working closely with other people, how does one learn to be kinder?
Swami Shivananda said, serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. So serve comes first. When we serve others, practically, physically, with the intention to do good, this service leads to love. So Swami Shivananda said, serve, love, Swami Shivananda said, service of our fellow beings leads to love. We always desire love, but how to achieve that love? I remember many years back listening to Mother Teresa. She said, love in action is service. Similarly, service leads to love. What type of love? Love of our fellow beings. Our fellow beings are not only human beings. Love, serve love. And then this service, this love, how does it come into manifestation? To our giving to others. So love leads to giving. Serve, love, give. How do we become kinder? We become kinder by serving. Serving is simple. Whatever we do, we need to do it with the motivation to do good, to remove the suffering of others, to bring more joy into the life of others, to share with others the good things that we have, to listen. To the practice of service with these intentions, the kindness within our heart is going to grow. Serve, love, give, the path to kindness.
Swamiji, how do we change bad thinking habits such as fault finding?
Bad thinking habits can be changed by cultivating other habits. Habits replace habits. There is a method within the Raja Yoga system called Pratipaksha Bhavana, thinking the opposite thoughts. How did we develop habits? By repeated thoughts, by repeated words, by repeated actions for a prolonged period, for a very long period. And also by being in a relatively bad company. If you are in the company of people that are gossiping and backbiting and speaking ill about others and pointing towards the negative traits of others, just being in that company can also contribute to these mental habits. So we need to develop the opposite habits. How we develop the opposite habits? By consciously cultivating virtues. Virtues like love, patience, peacefulness, good thoughts about others, and so on. We need to remember that we do have the possibility to control our thoughts. Therefore, whenever a negative thought arises, we need to replace it with the opposite thought. This is possible. If this is difficult, we can utilize prayer. In our case, we will pray to our Guru. We will invoke the presence of our Guru. In the presence of our Guru, when we were in his presence, we refrained as much as we can for manifesting bad habits. Or we can bring into our mind a good example of a virtue, like kindness, like love, like patience, like peacefulness. We need to think about a person that for us emulates that quality. We need to invoke that person within us. And then we need to stop for a moment and contemplate the opposite quality. Then in action, we need to do the very opposite than what our mind is telling us to do. Lord Krishna told Arjuna that the mind can be in the position of an enemy, or the same mind can be in the position of a friend. It depends what is the direction of the mind. Whenever the mind rises up, bringing back the same habits, we need to remember, and we need to do the very opposite in thought, in speech, in action. And if we need help, we can invoke help from God, from the Guru, or from great beings that emulate, that embody those qualities that we desire to develop. At night, we should fill in a spiritual diary, and there we can write down what happened today, and what did I do, how did I reverse the direction of the thought into the positive direction. In the same manner that the negative habits developed, we can develop opposite habits. There is a principle in yoga, very important principle. Truth always triumphs. Positive always overcomes the negative, always. Whenever something of a negative nature rises, when we apply the opposite, which is positive, the positive is going to take over. If we repeat it, do it again and again and again, in the longer run, new habits are going to be formed. And the last thing, satsanga, the company. Who are the people in your company? Again, for example, here in the ashram, we are in the company of each other. Sometimes we inspire each other, and sometimes we may do the opposite. But we have the opportunity to use this situation in order to help each other, to cultivate the higher qualities that do exist within our mind. This is the meaning of satsanga. Some people may find it easier to wake up in the morning and to come to satsanga or meditation. Other people may find it more difficult, but we can help each other. This is the point. One person finds it more difficult to practice yoga asanas daily. Other person finds it very easy, but we can help each other. This is the whole idea of satsanga. We can inspire each other. We can help each other. We can together rise instead of sinking. So in the same manner that we developed negative qualities, we can develop positive qualities by working consciously with our mind. That's it.
Swamiji, how do we know what is the right thing to do in a given situation?
First of all, we don't always know what is the right thing to do in a given situation. But there is a compass. There is guidance. How can we know? Swami Shivananda gave the answer. He said, be good and do good. So the formula of doing the right thing at every moment is the following formula. Be good and do good. Be good describes the inner intention. Do good describes the action. Before I do anything, I should ask myself, by doing this, am I going to improve the situation of anyone? Am I going to improve the physical life of a person, the mental life, the psychological or emotional life, the spiritual life? By doing it, am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it for others? These questions should be there. But if we remember, be good and do good, it will help us to do the right thing at every moment. Because within ourselves, deep within ourselves, all of us know what is the right thing to do at every moment. The right thing that we have to do at every moment is called dharma. Dharma can be learned from scriptures. Dharma can be learned from our own gurus. But dharma, in difficult situations where scriptures are not available and our teachers are not around, dharma can also be learned from our conscience. So be good and do good. This is the formula. And we need to contemplate it. What does it mean to be good? Be good means myself. Be good. What does it mean to do good? If we ask these questions before an action, most of the time we will do the right thing. Sometimes it seems that we have to choose between evils. It's not always possible to choose between good and bad or good and evil. Sometimes whatever you may do, it seems to be a lesser evil or a greater evil and so on. Even then, if you remember, be good and do good, you will end doing the right thing at that very moment. Then one more formula. You can know a thing by its fruits or by its results. Goodness will always bring joy, will always bring success, will always bring progress, will always help. We knew here in the Bahamas a saintly person. He was a close friend of the ashram. He passed away. One day I asked him, how did you reach the state where you are? And he said that many years back, I was a youngster, full of trouble. And one day, after a very painful experience, I took a vow. I am going to do every single day one good deed. And he said, since that day, I made a point to do every single day one good deed. And my life was transformed. How difficult it is to do one good deed every single day. Not so difficult. So if doing every single day one good deed can transform a person from a person full of troubles into a saintly person, we can also do it. By doing every single day one good deed, as the days are passing by, we will know more and more and more and more what is the right thing to do every single moment. The right thing to do every single moment is to bring goodness to the world. This is the right thing to do, to bring goodness to the world, to give birth to goodness in the world. This is the right thing to do. I am going to give birth right now to goodness. This is the right thing to do. It's simple. Be good and do good. You are born in order to improve the world, to bring goodness to the world. This is the meaning of doing the right thing every moment. Next.
Swamiji, if the events in our lives are dictated by our prarabdha karma, what is the meaning of a mistake? What is the meaning of a right choice?
I can't hear what you say.
If the events in our lives are dictated by our prarabdha karma, what is the meaning of a mistake? What is the meaning of a right choice?
Prarabdha karma means the past actions that we have done in our past. Our past can be sometimes the past in this life, but also we speak about past actions in previous lives. And these actions must bring results, and we must experience the results of our own actions. So a great part of our life is the experience of the results of our own actions that we have done in the past. Then what is the meaning of mistakes? Yes, we are going to commit, or we are going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. And we are going to experience the results of our own mistakes. At the same time, as the time passes, we can get into the habit of learning from our mistakes and of improving ourselves in such a manner that we are not going to repeat these mistakes in the future. So before we make a mistake, it may be difficult for us to determine that what I'm going to do is a mistake. We may not be able to determine it. But after committing the mistake, we may come to the conclusion that yes, this was a mistake, or other people may tell us so, or our own experience may tell us so. At that time, we should contemplate. By doing this, by the motive that pushed me to do this action, I have committed a mistake. This is the reason why I committed a mistake. In the future, I will not commit it. By this repeated determination, by learning from our own mistakes, the mistake will not only bring suffering into our life, but it will become a stepping stone for success and evolution. So what is the meaning of the mistake? The meaning of the mistake is to learn from it. What is the meaning of free choice? The meaning of free choice is that our will, our choice at every moment is free, but we need to develop our awareness. We need to develop the capacity to learn from our mistakes. And at the same time, there should be no fatalism. We do have free choice, and we do have the capacity and the potential to change our destiny by our thoughts, by our intentions, by our words, and by our actions. We are not the victims of destiny, but we are the masters of our own destiny because we are beings of free choice. So the more aware we become, the more we can exercise our capacity of free choice and our capacity to learn from our mistakes and to evolve. And all of this in spite of fate and destiny, which we call prarabdha karma.
Om Swamiji. As a yoga teacher, how can I inspire my students to take up a regular study of the Bhagavad Gita?
By teaching them. If you want to inspire the students to study regularly the Bhagavad Gita, teach them regularly the Bhagavad Gita. This way, you yourself will develop a constant study by teaching others, and others will develop a constant study by studying with you. Next.
Om Swamiji. Many times we carry physical issues that have emotional origins. How do we learn what place to give to our emotions so they don't overpower us, but also don't get suppressed within?
The emotions, by their very nature, will overpower us because of long habits and tendencies developed through many, many lives, because of negative actions that we have done to many, many lives. But when we say emotions, there are two types of emotions: positive emotions, uplifting emotions, negative emotions. So the idea is to detach from the negative emotions and to cultivate the positive emotions. How do we cultivate the positive emotions? First of all, we need to know of their existence. When we speak about emotions, many times we speak about emotions like lust, anger, greed, hatred, jealousy, fear, and so on. But there are so many positive emotions, like love, like kindness, like empathy, like joy, like serenity, so many positive emotions. We need to learn and we need to become aware of the existence of the positive emotions within us. When we live in a place that is always covered by clouds, we may not be aware that above the clouds there is blue sky and a shining sun. In order to become aware of the blue sky and the shining sun, we need to elevate ourselves and go beyond the clouds. Similarly, our mind has many, many layers. We need to soar up through the many layers of the mind to the upper layers, where we can experience the higher emotions. How do we learn about the existence of the higher emotions? The yoga of divine love, Bhakti Yoga, is going to teach us. The first anga, the first rung or step in the science of Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of divine love, is called Shravanam, listening to the divine stories of the Supreme Being. When we listen to the divine stories, we become familiar with the higher emotions. We just need to allow ourselves to be exposed to the sunlight of the scriptures of divine love, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, and to imbibe these wonderful stories that are going to evoke within us the higher emotions. Then Kirtanam, singing of the divine name, surely will evoke the higher emotions. Smaranam, remembering the divine name. Japa, repetition of the mantra, is going to evoke within us the higher emotions. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And Swami Shivananda said, the whole world is the lotus feet of the world. By serving others and seeing in them God, we are serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam, doing puja, surely will evoke sooner or later the higher emotions. So karma yoga is going to purify our heart so we can experience the higher emotions. It will invoke love in our heart, love towards our fellow beings. Surely those higher emotions are going to be evoked. And then through the study and practice of Bhakti Yoga, all the higher emotion will be evoked. The positive always overcomes the negative. Therefore, the higher emotions are going to overcome the negative emotions. We do not control the negative emotions simply by chasing them away. It is the light of the higher emotions which dissipate the darkness of the lower emotions. Next.
Swamiji, is there a logical explanation to the existence of past lives and the wheel of samsara?
No, no logical explanation. It's like asking, is there a logical explanation to the existence of the law of gravity? No, no logical explanation. It is there. Similarly, past lives are simply there. It's like, is there a logical explanation of the existence of the present life? No. No logical explanation. This is why our blessed scientists are saying that this is all a glorious accident. Why do they say so? Because no logical explanation is there. Similarly, past life, present lives, future lives, no logical explanation. But these lives are factual. Now, if you want to get a logical explanation, you have to move higher. If you don't move higher, you cannot get a logical explanation. To move higher means to accept that life is more than the simple sensual life. Life is more than the simple physical life. Life is more than what our teachers are trying to tell us. When we elevate ourselves a little higher in our consciousness, then we realize directly the truth of the infinite number of lives that we are going to. Once we accept the fact, the truth of the many, many, many lives that we share with all creatures, then we can become aware of what we call the wheel of samsara, the wheel of birth and death, the reason behind the many, many, many lives. And most important, we are going to realize that this is a conscious process, a process governed by consciousness, governed by love, governed by infinite power, governed by infinite goodness, governed by infinite wisdom. But in order to be able to accept this for the sake of experiencing a higher logic, we need to elevate ourselves. And in order to elevate ourselves, yoga is very helpful. So we need to practice yoga. Then we can understand the truth of past lives, of future lives, the truth of the wheel of samsara. We can understand it because our vision is clear. Next.
Swamiji, what are the means by which we absorb prana from the universe? And how does prana get stored in the nervous system?
Prana, the life force, the energy of life, is the energy of pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is all-pervading. It is the substratum that is the foundation of everything that exists. Spiritual, mental, physical. The prana, the life force, that is the energy of pure consciousness, of the most fundamental reality, is everywhere. We are right now in an infinite ocean of prana, or an infinite ocean of life. This is not a simple life, this is a divine life of existence, not a simple existence, divine existence. Of infinite joy, not a simple joy, divine joy. And the power of life permeates everything. And that power is called prana, or universal prana. As long as that prana resides within the body, we are alive. When the prana leaves, the body drops, dies, and disintegrates. But the person continues. It assumes another body, another life. And this happens infinite numbers of times. We had assumed so many bodies, so many lives. We experienced the universal life. And one day, we are going to realize that the universal life, on all its names and forms, is one infinite being. And we are not different from that infinite being. That's it.
Swamiji, how can I cultivate my ojas and tejas?
Ojas and tejas. These are terms used in Ayurveda of forces or energies on a higher level, on a subtler level. In Ayurveda, we speak about the fundamental biological forces or physical forces that are called doshas, vata, pitta, kapha. On a higher level, vata is prana, pitta is called tejas, the mental fire, kapha is called ojas, the spiritual power that manifests at a subtler level, at a higher level. The same ojas on a physical level will manifest as the sexual tissue. On a higher level, it will manifest as spiritual force or ojas. The same way, on a physical level, pitta is the physical fire that manifests as the power of digestion, not just within the digestive system, but within the cells themselves. But at a higher level, the same fire becomes tejas, which is the mental radiance, the radiance of intelligence. Similarly, vata, which is air on the physical level, which is mobility of the joints on the physical level, at a higher level, becomes prana. Within the physical body, the prana assumes 5 forms. Those forms are called prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana. According to many of our scriptures, prana is responsible for exhalation, apana is responsible for inhalation, samana is responsible for digestion, udana is responsible for separating the physical body from the astral body during the time of death, and at the same time, it is what keeps the life form, the life force within the body. Vyana circulates through the whole body and is responsible for the movement of the joints and for the movement of the fluids in the body, for the movement of the nerve impulses and so on. So this is on the physical level. But on a higher level, what we have the universal force of prana that manifests within the mind and assumes the forms of vrittis or thought waves. And as there are 5 forms of prana within the physical body, there are 5 types of vrittis within the chitta or the mind. What is behind those vrittis, behind these thought waves? Why do they exist? What is the cause behind their emergence? This is the higher prana, the subtler prana, that in its 5 forms assumes the shape of the 5 types of vrittis, 5 types of thought waves. At a lower level, when we walk with Ayurveda, we aspire for physical health by balancing the doshas, by balancing the 3 biological forces physically. But on a higher level, we can cultivate prana through the practice of pranayama. We can cultivate tejas through the practice of meditation. We can cultivate ojas through the practice of brahmacharya and the practice of bhakti yoga or the yoga of devotion, and so on. Similarly, we can also learn how to keep these forces in balance so they do not disturb the physical body. As a consequence, we are going to have a healthy physical body and at the same time, a healthy and strong mind. That's it.
Swamiji, how can one learn to distinguish intuition or the inner voice from desires?
Intuition is a type of knowing. Desires are instinctive forces, are fundamental forces that are very deep within our subconscious mind, are extremely powerful, and generally speaking are divided into two categories, likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes are the two major categories of our desires. Desires are forces, like the force behind breathing. Desires are vasanas. They are deep, deep impressions within our subconscious mind, manifested as forces that motivate the mind, push and pull the mind, and push and pull the body on the manifestation level. Mostly, they are forces that it's very difficult to control, but it is possible to control. Desires are like hurricanes. Intuition is like a peaceful ocean. Intuition is the outcome of the tranquility of the mind. When the mind is tranquil, the fruit or the result is a higher knowledge that is the outcome of the reflection of consciousness in a tranquil mind. Within the mind, there are many, many spiritual treasures. These spiritual treasures can manifest in the form of knowledge that comes with great clarity. And knowledge comes with great clarity when the mind is pure and when the mind is tranquil. Therefore, the outcome of the regular practice of meditation is the enhancement of intuition. Intuition in the sense of knowledge that dawns upon us like the sunrise. It's not knowledge that is the result of a logical process. It's knowledge that is a result of revelation through the tranquility of the mind, through the purity of the mind, through the focus of the mind. I knew a scientist. He was one of the chief scientists of IBM many years back. He developed the magnetic tapes that were used in the big computers of IBM. He was a great discoverer, a great scientist. I knew him personally. And for 1 year, he was working, trying to develop those magnetic tapes on which the information was stored. And nothing worked. But one day he went to sleep, and in his dream, the whole knowledge of how to do it came. So for a whole year, he was meditating on the problem, and the answer came in his dream. Evidently, his mind was an evolved mind. Sometimes we are born with a more evolved mind. Still, even in this life, we need to train the mind to be tranquil, to be pure, to be one-pointed, and we need to develop the capacity of meditation. Then intuition will come. In the Kena Upanishad, there is a story. And in that story, it is described how higher knowledge comes. It says it comes like the flash of lightning. It comes like the blinking of the eye. Even at the highest level of intuition, It comes like lightning. It comes like the blinking of the eye. What does it mean? It comes fast and it leaves faster. So if it comes fast and you miss it, in the same Kena Upanishad it is said, what a loss, what a loss. Intuition needs to be appreciated. When the intuition is born, knowledge will come to us in ways, in manners, and in times that we cannot predict. So we should always be ready. So when it comes, we should not miss it. That's what I have to say.
Swamiji, what shall we do in times of great crisis when we see so many suffering?
Times of great crisis, what?
What shall we do in times of great crisis when we see so many suffering?
This is easy. Now, on planet Earth, there is a global situation everywhere. We call it COVID-19, the pandemic. Everyone is suffering. It's a global situation everywhere. And on top of it, it's unpredictable. Nobody can say when it's going to end. What can we do? At this time, all the good things that are in our possession, we should share with humanity at large with the intention to ease everyone's situation. Every person has something to contribute. Our contribution is by teaching yoga, by teaching Vedanta, by teaching people how to practice, by giving people spiritual support. In fact, at this time, beside doing sadhana, beside doing strong practice, it's most important to do our level best to help the suffering humanity. In our case, how? By sharing the teachings of yoga with as many people as possible. We need to reach as many people as possible. Not for money. Money is not the motive here. Not for money, with the intention to help others. Similarly, so many people in the world have gifts, have different types of knowledge. Anything that can help people around the world needs to be shared with others. See how by having the facility of social media, the internet, the Zoom, we can communicate with so many people. This is not by mistake. So, at the same time that we benefit from the solitude, we study, we do sadhana, we do so many good things. At the same time, most important is to share what we have with as many people as possible, practically. We are trying to do it. Hopefully we will be able to do it even more. This is the answer.
Swamiji, what are practical ways to overcome the need for specialness, recognition, and the approval of others?
Specialness, I am special. I am special, but I am also not isolated. In other words, special, yes, because there is something distinct, special in every person, but not separated. In fact, I am one with the universal life. I am one with everything that exists. This is the truth, but we need to remember it. Special, this is how we overcome specialness. What's the other thing?
The need for recognition and approval of others.
The need for recognition is achieved by recognizing who am I, what is my real nature. This is what needs to be recognized. The more I recognize my true nature, bless me. The more I recognize my real nature, what I am, the less need I have for recognition. But recognition is not for me. Imagine that I don't recognize others for what they are. What a loss. What a loss. The more you can recognize the value of others, the better you are going to be, and the better everyone is going to be. So yes, for myself, not to have the need of recognition, I need to recognize who am I. But otherwise, I need to recognize the value of every person, of every being, of nature, of everything that I am aware of. And the third thing?
Approval of others.
The way to overcome the need for approval of others is to approve of others. By approving of others, my need of approval of others is going to decrease. That's it? Or there are more things? No, more things in the question? Okay.
Swamiji, what would you say to an aspirant who feels called both to renunciation and direct action in the world to share the message of peace through yoga and Vedanta?
First of all, action. Action comes first. Action that is selfless eventually will lead to love, will lead to a pure mind, and eventually it will lead to true renunciation. But action, positive action, comes first. So it is clear that if a person has this desire for action and desire for renunciation, this by itself is a proof that learn how to act in an enlightened way. The heart will be purified, the mind will be purified. We are going to learn to love, we are going to learn how to meditate, and along the way, renunciation is going to come, and at that time, renunciation will be the right thing. On the other hand, if renunciation is the right thing, nothing can stop it. So, between renunciation and action, renunciation will always win. And the second thing is that there is no conflict between action and renunciation. But action always comes first. Sequentially, action comes first and wisdom follows. What type of action? Enlightened action. Then love follows. Then wisdom follows. Then renunciation follows. I think this was my last question. What I'm going to do, I will allow for one more question, because this was my last question.
Swamiji, what is the role of pilgrimage?
The role of pilgrimage is to develop bhakti or devotion, love of the divine. Pilgrimage helps us to develop love of the divine. When we go for pilgrimage, it's a physical way to search for God. There is external pilgrimage, there is inner pilgrimage. External pilgrimage comes first, inner pilgrimage follows, then no pilgrimage follows, no more pilgrimage. You sit, you meditate, and you realize the self. But pilgrimage definitely supports bhakti, supports divine love. It's a part of the path that leads to divine love. Om Tat Sat. Now I'm going to conclude with 2 minutes of silent meditation, the final mantras, and that will be it. Silent meditation. Om, Om, Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Bolo Sadguru Sivananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Swami Vishnudevananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Tat Sat.